all these things in life, I found a way. So that's what I was going to do in art. I was just going to find a way. And I think that because I proved it to myself, and it goes back to having confidence in yourself, I believed I could. I want people to understand that when we're dreaming, we need to wake up and execute, because dreams don't come true unless we literally wake up and go do those things that we're dreaming about. So too many of us are like, oh, this sounds great. Yeah, I would love to do that. And then we never execute. And then a year goes by, then years, and a life goes by.
We're here with renowned artist Anthony Ricciardi. Welcome to the show.
What's going on? Thank you so much. Grateful to be here.
Yeah, we're excited. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your hat, a little bit about your shirt that you got going on?
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah, well, my name is Anthony Ricciardi from Toronto. Grew up here in Toronto, and growing up, I always wanted to be an artist, but it didn't seem like a viable career. No one says, "Hey, go become an artist." That can make you a living. So I always had a passion in art, but I had a bunch of other passions growing up, and I saw people in my family or outside friends and in the finance world and doing well that way. So I was like, I ended up getting a scholarship to Alabama State to play baseball from here. So I went down to Alabama, and during that time I studied finance because it seemed realistic. Art still at that point didn't seem realistic. So studied finance, came home, started working for a real estate investment fund. So I was actually on the mortgage side of high interest loans and a bunch of different things like that with the developers, and it was really fun.
Explains the cash flow.
Yeah, the cash flow had, that's we can get into that. It's a Grant Cardone reference, who's awesome. But so I went into finance, but every night and weekend I would paint, and this was over about a 5.5 year period where I was still living at home, still in my young 20s, and it was my passion, but I still didn't think it was realistic. So during that time, I set up a bunch of art shows, and I was being very entrepreneurial because I would reach out to galleries and different things. No one's going to listen to me. Who's this kid? So I had to do it myself. And I think that process in building my own platform, building my own career, just very organically has helped me leverage, 10 years later, now looking back, all the structure that I created while I was working is paying off now. And so in multitudes of ways. But so ultimately, after about 5.5 years, I had all these little projects that I was working on, and they were small, and they were small in scale and small in dollar. Definitely not enough to leave my finance career. But I said, if we're ever going to do something crazy and pursue art, I might as well do it while we're young. So literally the week of my wedding, the night I closed on my first house, I was like, I'm quitting my job. Oh my God. I'm like, let's just load it all up. Let's just do it all in one shot. And I've been with my wife since grade 10. We've been together for 16 years. So she was the most supportive ever, and she still is. So I was like, well, we're doing this, and I'm not going to look back. I'm not going to give myself a plan B or anything else. It's just art. And that was just over 6 years ago now. So, painting about 10 years, about real full time about the last 6.5. And it's been fun. We've been set up shows all throughout Toronto, of course, being from here, but also shows in Miami, LA, New York, Manchester, sort of around the world.
Internationally,
Australia. I was in Australia last month, which is really, really cool. Did a big show there.
And you've done some big things for guys I listen to, I consider mentors, like Grant Cardone.
Yeah.
Did an awesome piece for him. You guys end up auctioning that stuff, or it was for his...
We did both. Yeah, so in that scene, the show with Grant, Bradley. Bradley's awesome. Yeah. Ryan Panetta is amazing. So I've done a bunch of stuff with all those guys. Grant and I, he was a collector first, him, Jared, Sherry, their whole at the 10X team. They were just collectors, and then it turned into me pitching an idea to do a whole entire art show together. And we did a show, so it was two Decembers ago during Art Basel, which is a big show in Miami. It's an art show. We did a 10X show where I did 10 paintings, all big originals, and we did a bunch of prints on the back end of that. And then since then, he's just 2 weeks ago, he bought a new piece. He's just been they're amazing. And what they've created there, and then also support of arts and support of so many different things is fantastic. But I have done charity events with them as well. For the Grant Cardone Foundation, I've donated a couple paintings. So last year, one of the paintings raised $50,000. This year we're donating 4 paintings, but smaller pieces at $12,000 each. So it'll hopefully raise another 50. So that's in November.
That's amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
Amazing.
I want you to unpack that whole thing about nobody quits their job just before their wedding, just before closing their home, or on the day of closing, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
You did it the right way. So I think you had some guidance from a mortgage broker.
I definitely did. The mortgage broker was awesome. And he's like, hey, keep the job for still another week.
He's like, close the
true
deal.
Story. That's a true story.
You know, usually it's the opposite. Someone goes and gets a car just before closing and it jeopardizes the deal. But you did it the right way. So shout out to that mortgage broker.
Yeah.
But what were you feeling at that time? Like, there's probably excitement, nervousness, all in one. But what were you feeling? And did you tell your wife leading up to that, or was it?
Yeah, it was genuine excitement. They knew I was still living at home. I hadn't bought the first house, so I hadn't moved out. So from my parents' perspective, it was like, and everyone's, you're crazy, right? Like, I mean, in theory, it is. Like, looking back now, I can't even fathom how I did it, truthfully. But and people always ask me, like, were you upset at work? Like, did you not like? I actually loved where I worked. I worked for Romsmith Investment Corporation. They're an incredible, mortgage investment fund. In Yorkville. My office is in Yorkville. I got to like experience life properly through there. And my boss, I'm still friends with him. He came by the studio just the other day, and like the colleagues that I work with are still some of my best friends. So the experience was fantastic. But overall, I just knew that there was more to what I can do and more to like what I wanted to do. So it didn't come from a place of like, I was miserable. It came from a place of like, I keep going back to this thing is like, I want to live up to my personal potential that I think I can live for myself, like what I can physically do. And for me, it was being the biggest artist in the world. I don't even know what that meant. And so that's the path that I was on. I was like, I can't do it here. And my colleagues, my boss, my parents, my wife, like they started seeing like how much time I was putting into art and supporting it. Like I was joking about it with my boss just the other day, like my old boss. I was like, he bought paintings of mine while I was an employee of his. Like that's literally, they were coming to my art shows like after work. They're like, wait, when did you paint all this? I was like, as soon as I come home from work at 8 p.m., I paint till 3 a.m. And like, that's literally what I did. So they just saw the passion, and that's why I made it difficult for everyone around me because I believed in myself so much. I made it difficult for everyone around me to really say like, you can't do this, Anthony. Because I said like, I'm going to make this work. And I believed it, and that was the only way that everyone around me could believe it as well. So, of course, I was nervous. I mean, looking back now, I'm more nervous for myself, my six years ago self, than I was at the time. But just made it work.
If you knew what you knew now, you probably would have never made that decision, right? Yeah,
no chance. Yeah, and that's a crazy thing because I was comfortable. I mean, at 23, 24 years old, I'm making a good amount of money. Yeah. I was living at home, barely any expenses. I didn't have a kid at the time. Like all these different things. I was like, this is great. Like, why would I ever leave this? This is fantastic. So like, yeah, in theory, knowing what I know it was a crazy thing to do.
So did you had your wife's support at that time? I think you said your parents as well. And did you have people that were like saying, don't do it, you're crazy? Yeah. Like, what'd you say? Like, was it family? Was like, what would you say to them when they said
I definitely didn't have my parents' support to do it. Like, I mean, now they're my biggest fans. Yeah. But like at the time, like,
what were they saying?
Like at the time, like the same way I would look. I have a son now as well, and like and you'll know in a few weeks. You just want the best for them. So when I realized very early on that like when my parents or family friends or people that I trusted, mentors, were telling me to be careful, they weren't saying it from a place of like negativity. They were saying it from like, be careful. Like, Anthony, you realize, because I didn't want to come off as ungrateful for what I had, meaning a stable career, decent, like a large sum of money for a 23-year-old. And I'm not saying that, I'm saying in the finance world, as you guys know, in real estate, you can make a good amount of money at a young age. Yeah. So I was like, they were coming from a place of like, be grateful for what you have. Stop like, why do you want to strive for more? But it was just my personality. And I think that everyone understood that as time went on. So, they were my biggest supports just mentally, but like in no other way. Like everything was, even every single art show, everything like funded by me. Like not a single, I never had an agent, never had a manager, never had a gallery support, never had anyone. So it was just like, I had to make it work. And I had to make it work because I wanted to prove to everybody like, hey, I was right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For real.
When did you know, like growing up, that you're good at this and it could be something that you want to do? Like when were you really interested in it?
Yeah. My whole entire life. So my great grandfather was an artist. My uncle, my dad's brother was an artist. But transparently, like they never did, it wasn't their full-time job. They never did well in art. And that's not to their fault. They're much better artists than me. It was just the time of the world. Like in the 80s and early 90s, there wasn't platforms like social media and different ways to be an entrepreneur in the creative field. It had nothing to do with talent, because genuinely they're both more talented than I am. But they just didn't have the platforms. And I think I've used platforms, whether it be social media or just being out there in the world efficiently. They didn't. But so I always painted, and I went to art galleries with my uncle and my dad, and like they always supported, like the love of art. But while I was away in university in Alabama, my uncle unfortunately passed away. So when I came home, I had all of his old paintings, his note. He was a poet as well, all of his old poetry. So my first collection of artwork that I ever created was based off his poems.
Okay.
And it maybe was a way, I didn't come home when he passed away, and he was like my best friend and the person I looked up to the most in the world. And maybe it was my way of coping. Looking back now, it's probably the case. Because it's sad to say this, but like if he was alive, I probably wouldn't be an artist, because he probably would have talked me out of it, because I trusted him so much. Because he'd be like, if he said do the stable thing, I probably would have listened. And so maybe it was just this way that he came through me after, has been like, go ahead and paint, like do what we know what we can do. And so that's when I really stepped it up. And that was when I came, and that was just like 10, 11 years ago now. But yeah, I always loved it. So to the question of like, when did I know, is like, it was always a passion. It just never seemed realistic.
You knew. Yeah. So now you're saying, okay, I want to do this a little bit more seriously. What were some of the first things you did at that point to set up the brand? Or, was there like some people create a business plan or a game plan, right? What were you doing at that time where you said, I'm going to do this for real?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I just painted a lot. And I believe that's the biggest disconnect from young creatives or anyone who wants to be an entrepreneur, is you need to get the reps in. You need to do a ton of work day in, day out, and get those reps up, because at the end of the day, it's just a numbers game. You need to put a lot out into the world. So when I had no money and I had no ability to buy a lot of canvases, I would paint one canvas, take a photo of it, put it in my portfolio, and then I would paint it white, and then paint another one. And I made hundreds and hundreds. I had nobody buying art. This is 10 years ago. No one was buying my art. Yeah. I had no one even looking towards my art. I had no social media presence, nothing. And so I just tried a lot of things. And that's how my style came to be. That's how my, the reps, that's why I can finish a painting relatively fast now. It's not because I can do it fast, because I've done thousands, right? So just what I did was a lot. That's it. I just did a lot, and I did a lot for free. I did a lot. I would travel. I mean, still to this day, I still travel. And everyone always asks me, I travel 3 times a month. I'm on the road always. And they're like, oh, you must have a client there. I'm like, no, it's just like a potential. I will just fly places for potentials, or fly places just to meet for a singular meeting and fly home. I still do that to this day on my dime. And I did that when I had nothing, and I do it to this day because I believe in the reps. So that's the way I did it. I just did a lot.
That speaks volumes though, because a lot of, the young people these days, go in at something new to them, expecting to be really good at it without putting in the time, without putting in the reps.
Yeah.
And what happens is, I'm sure you've probably seen this too, they go in and they're not good at it, obviously. And then they kind of go down and say, wow, I'm not really good at this. Maybe I should quit and give up.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate to see, because little do they know, the more reps you put in, the better you're going to get at it. And as a result, the result will be better. It'll reinforce your confidence, and you'll just keep getting better and better.
For sure. And, good is a relative term.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty about art, creative, and really anything that you're building. The term good is useless, because somebody can look at my art and say that is incredible. Then somebody can look at it and say that sucks. So the only thing you can do by doing all the reps is gain confidence in yourself. And by gaining confidence in yourself and being able to proudly put work out into the world, people take note of that. When I'm like, I don't know if I like this painting, you want to buy it? Why would anyone buy that?
No one's going to buy it. You don't even believe in it. Right?
Even if I was giving it to them free, why would they want to put it on their wall?
Exactly.
People want to resonate with something that makes them feel empowered, makes them feel special, makes them feel loved. If I don't even love it, how are they going to love it?
Exactly.
And so that's where really the reps came into play, because again, it's so relative what's good and bad, but it's the same with music. Music's the same way, acting, anything in the creative sphere. But ultimately you need to put work into the world to gain confidence for yourself.
I also love what you did, where you're like, hey, I'm traveling for free on my dime. It's no one's paying me to do that.
Yeah.
Taking a meeting, till this day I'm doing that, giving away canvases for free, doing what I got to do to build my brand, get my name out there, get my work out there.
Yeah.
I feel like so many people, especially young entrepreneurs listening to this, are missing that part of the business, that it takes 10 years, 15 years really to establish yourself as a name.
Yeah.
And maybe you could do it sooner, right?
Sure.
Everybody's different.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like you guys, you know how many deals, you know how many, meetings, appointments I took that I could look back and say, oh, that was a waste of time. No, it was a learning lesson.
Yes.
It was me, getting chiseled and getting better at my job and at what I do. So
100%.
I think what you said about expectancy, like there's that whole, I expect to be compensated this much right out the gate. No, you gotta do some things that you may not want to do. You got to be happy while you're doing them, and get your name out there. So sure. I love that, and you still do that. You still to this day.
Yeah. And it's a slow organic growth is the only way to be sustainable. Like I have younger artists be like, oh, it's nice that you can sell a canvas for 20,000, but I'm like, I didn't always do that. It used to be 200, and then I sold them, and then it used to be 600, then it would be 3,000, then it would be 6, and as long as they kept selling organically, I can keep rising the prices. But that didn't just happen. Like you just said, it doesn't, and it's still, and like you just mentioned, like it's a forever progress. Like it's a process that will go on hopefully forever.
Yeah. And if you do it the right way, then 15 years from now, 10 years from now, whatever. Yes, as you said, you'll be able to get that much. You'll be able to go to these shows, meet these influencers, do some work for them.
Yep.
And do great things and leave a lasting impact. We were just talking off air about someone who we will not give the clout to, and we will not give them the recognition, but they're scammers.
Yep.
Like they're scammers in that business. And at the end of the day, like
in every business there is,
but there's in every business,
right? Unfortunately, what we learn as we've gotten older in life is like there's incredible people in the world, but a lot of people suck.
Yeah, that's true.
Like there is so many good things in the world, and unfortunately, social media, the media, news keeps pushing the negative narrative. But there's so much good going on in the world, and like there's really good people that. Even us, I said it, I'm like, hey, let's just move on, because we can go about it all day about how people suck, because they don't even deserve a decimal in our brain.
They literally don't. That's true.
Yeah.
Literally don't.
On that point, I was going to ask you, have you ever like had any memorable encounters with people? Let's say, for example, that said to you, "I want to buy your art. Can you make me a piece?" And then let's say you made the piece or something like that, and they changed their mind or just said, you know what, like I don't want it anymore. Has that ever happened to you? Like give us an example of something like that if it's ever happened.
You don't want to know what my accounts receivable is. It's very high of people that haven't paid me things, but that happens.
Pay the man. Pay the man. Come on.
No, it happens. On the one aspect you're saying about like custom art and creating pieces for people, no, it hasn't. That I'm very like in the process of like I have a collection of artwork in my galleries. I have collection of artwork that are in third-party galleries. Then I have stuff that's straight out of my studio.
Okay.
And then I'll create customs. Usually customs come into play with sizing. Someone needs an obscure size for a living room or a hallway, or I'll do stuff for like I do hearts. A lot of my like 97% of my artwork has a lot of hearts in it, and that goes to very quick side stories because I followed my heart to become an artist. So it happened very organically.
So that was one of my questions. So
that's where the heart comes from. It's because I started doing it organically while I was still working, and I kept putting hearts in, telling myself if I follow my heart, incredible things will happen.
Wow.
So sometimes I'll do custom pieces, like if I just did a piece, a family has 5 people in their family, I'll do 5 linked hearts. Stuff like this, subtle, they'll know why there's 5, not another person would. So when I do those type of custom things, usually the client's like really involved in it, and that doesn't happen. But there's been many times where I've delivered art and trusted people and still waiting. So it's that's years later, but it happens.
And how do you overcome that though? Like with your mindset?
You just have to keep going. And going back to it being a numbers game is to understand that it's a small percentage. And even if the dollar's a lot, and even at the time, and even if we need it, the blah, 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 in the percentage of the long game, they have a bad life, I believe. Mm-hmm. The people that do that, the people that even have the inclination to screw someone over, to stiff someone, to take money and not do something, to take art and not do something, I truly believe they don't sleep well at night.
100%. I think so too.
And for me, I'm just like, okay, like I do. I sleep perfectly fine. So I'm just like, I don't even want their life, their nothing that they're going on. So I don't even want to keep associating. And if one day it's meant to come through, it'll come through.
Yeah, I solved that problem, just so you know, in here, because I was speaking with Sarah this morning about who we need to go after to get our commissions. I just have a large line of credit. It's like, until you shouldn't have to do that, but until you close other deals, because you never want it to be like, oh man, I'm really depending on this one thing, that means something else is wrong with your business, right? Because we are running businesses,
of course,
at the end of the day, right? So, it's interesting that you go through that as well.
Yeah, it happens. It happens at all levels.
So one thing we haven't mentioned, and in your interview with Bradley, which is the one I watched, is you're colorblind.
Yeah.
Okay, so what color blazer is this? what am I wearing? Is
it gray?
No, it's pink.
No, it's not.
This is a pink blazer.
That's not pink.
This is pink.
What color is yours?
It's a light pink.
I'm wearing a gray blazer.
They're the same. Wow. I genuinely, that's a tough one. Wow. I've never mixed pink with gray. Are you sure that's pink?
This is pink. So send it to like your wife later or whatever, and be like, "What color is this?"
That's a tough.
It's like the photo.
There's lines through it that the lines are lighter, and there's a little bit of a shade of gray in it.
That's a good one.
It's a pattern, but this is pink.
Usually, so I've been on 3 or 4 podcasts where they've tried to do the test on me, and I always get it right. Okay. That's the first time I've been that wrong. That's crazy.
Okay, let's do one more thing then. So I'm wearing, Carson, maybe you could put this in the short. We'll do a short clip with this one, but it's the Top Time Breitling. It's colorful. I'm not going to tell you what colors are in there. The audience can see it. Please have a look.
First of all, beautiful watch.
Thank you.
Okay, so this is how I always work backwards.
Okay.
It's a man's watch, so this means it's blue. There's blue. Okay, because if a woman gave me this, I would say it's purple or pink because I just start referring to like historical norms. There's other color here. Oh,
very subtle, very little.
Is it red?
Let me see.
Is it red up there?
Yeah,
there is red.
Yeah. Okay. And there's one more.
The band?
Beside the red that you saw. Can you see that?
It's like I see it's a different shade, but it's red.
Yeah. Okay.
Shade of red? It's orange? Okay.
Yeah.
Orange and red are like...
They're alike.
Yeah. For sure. Red and green are the same to me. Brown and green are the same to me. Red and orange are the same to me.
Oh, wow.
Blue and purple are the same to me. So now all of a sudden pink and gray are the same to me because that's a weird one.
There's gray. There's gray in it.
But you see how I related things in life is that I just put it into reference. So I just didn't assume you were wearing a pink blazer.
Can you help unpack that for us? Like how does that come into play when you're doing your art? Obviously,
yeah.
Like how do you choose the paint for a specific type of
Yeah. So a lot of my canvases are really thick in texture, and it's because of this. Because early on in my career, this is what happened when I practiced thousands of times. I would try to rush a painting and I put blue up here and yellow down here, and all of a sudden it would make muddy brown, but I would never see it changing color because the colors are blending, but I don't see shades. So I knew I read the bottle, it said blue. I knew I read the bottle, it said yellow. And then my wife would come and be like, did you mean to make this entire painting brown? I'm like, no, it's blue and yellow. She's like, no, it's ugly brown. And it didn't mean the painting was bad. It mean the colors are just not what I wanted.
Got it.
So I learned a process of layering my art in. So when I add a singular color to a canvas, it needs to fully dry before I add the next color.
Okay.
So that's why my paintings are so thick. So that's just how I got around it. Of course, I mean, everyone asks me, like, how do you even read the bottle? I mean, of course, I read the bottle. It says yellow. Yeah. So I'll just add I had the bottle.
You can read.
No, people are just like, that's a genuine question. Yeah, you're not actually. People ask me that before. That's strange. No, I don't get it. You see the bottle. I'm like, yeah, but it says yellow on the bottle. No way. No, I'm like, it says yellow on the bottle. So I put the yellow down, it dries fully, and then I'll move on to the next color.
Wow. So you also need a lot of patience then when it comes to...
but that's why I work. It's part of my process as well, is like, you guys will come to my studio. We'll set up a meeting there, but I'm working on tons of canvases. Like in my studio right now, there's 100 canvases on the go, like 100. And that doesn't mean all of them are finished. Like they're in from 1% all the way up to 100% done. Because I'll add a color, move it off to the side, next one. And I'm working on, at any given time, I'm probably working on about 12, just in the process.
Yeah.
But just because of my layer, but I also don't want to, there's this historic norm in artists, like it takes a long time to do art. And there are some, realism paintings take a long time. There's all different styles of art that take long times. But like there's this norm where an artist will say, the value comes because it takes me 3 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever it is. And I just don't believe that. I believe that art is the canvas that's finished. And if it takes me 1 minute or it takes me 100 days, it doesn't matter as long as the execution of the ending piece. So I never want to waste time. So I'll add, if I had to wait every single canvas and do one canvas at a time, it would take me weeks to finish a singular canvas. Because that's what it in theory does. It does take me weeks. But because I'm working at 12 at a time, I can sort of finish 12 in almost a week because I'm that doesn't mean I always do, but like I'm working on pieces as I go.
Wow.
Well, I love the old saying of, actually, Grant Cardone he goes hard on this one. He hammers this one where he goes, I'm on vacation. He was using the example. He's on vacation. I forget where he was. He wanted to see the monkeys. There's this thing where this tour, you can see the monkeys. And they're like, yeah, you pay us this much. It'll be 2 hours long. And this guy's like, nah, like, charge me more and make it only take 20 minutes. I just want to see them for like 20 minutes and leave. And the whole trip is 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And charge me more. Yeah. Right. He's trying to tell the audience about this mindset. Yeah. Right. And I get it. I understand it. But some people don't. They think that time is money. Yeah. But it's not. No. It's like, if you've gotten really great at your craft, right? If I can do a deal, if I could do an offer in 30 minutes, and whatever that commission is, it's done in 30 minutes.
It's the same, yeah.
Some people might say, oh, but you're getting paid too much. No, but it took 10 years for me to get to 30 minutes.
Of course. A lot of people don't understand that, though, in our society, though. They think, oh, well, you did it so fast, then you don't deserve that.
It's not valuable.
Exactly.
There's this thing about value and time, and it's like,
time value.
No, I want to pay somebody to do this and this because I want to win my time back.
Yes, exactly.
What's the value of that? Yeah. So I think they got a little bit backwards. Yeah. Right? So
we're not about to solve that, though.
No,
we're definitely not.
So we just keep doing us because it is an uphill battle, but it is true. It is that is 100% right. Like I think society as a whole has that backwards, but it's fine.
Before we move on from the color thing, because now I'm super curious.
Yeah, your gray suit.
I have my gray suit. 2 questions. Do you, when you get dressed in the morning, right? Are you seeing the color on your shirt?
Ish.
Like
I'll ask my wife. We have a great story from when I was a kid, and I bought my friend just retold it the other day. I used to skateboard. I bought skateboarding shoes, and I was with my dad, and I don't know why he didn't tell me, but I came home and they were bright pink. And I remember going to all the guys. I mean, we're young. We're 9 or 10 years old, and like all the guys in the area are like, "Did you mean to buy pink shoes?" I'm like, they're gray. They were white and gray. I thought they were white and gray. It's pink and gray. I never really caught that on until right this moment. Actually, that's crazy. But yeah, so that's the only time it's really had fun. But I've done a bunch of things where like things don't match and stuff. I mean, I don't think I'm matching right now, but like it's okay. Now the fun part is about dressing and like just doing things is that I'm an artist, so I just get away with everything.
Everyone's like, "Oh, it's because he's an artist." Yeah.
Well, I just wear ridiculous things all the time, and people are like, "All right, well, he's an artist." And I constantly have paint.
I was just gonna say, so for
like this is me scrubbing. I mean, I was painting this morning, but like this is me scrubbing off paint. It's just
No, I love it.
It's funny.
So what do you see on the wall here?
No chance.
Nothing.
Oh, this is weird.
What do you see?
A lot of color.
Yeah, it is a spectrum. It's like a rainbow.
No. Well, the rainbow I don't see at all. Like it's no, I see like 3 colors in it because they're too close in I see it when people separate them. They tell me there's one color. I can do that, but I don't know. There's a yellow and blue. I see. Is that right?
There's definitely yellow and blue here. There's a lot of different colors.
Yeah, there's yellow, green, a little bit of red, a little bit of pink, blue.
It's great.
Did you not being able to see, was that from when you were born?
Yeah. So all my uncles, it comes from the mom's gene. So
okay.
The mom carries it, but women can't be colorblind. But the mother carries the gene that then gives it to their son. Oh, so like my mom's cousins, my mom's brothers, my mom's cousins, all the male side are all colorblind. Like so all my uncles are colorblind.
Oh, well, why can't the women get it?
I don't know. They carry it and they can't get it. Not sure. So like my son can't be colorblind. That's because I carry it. My wife side doesn't.
They don't have
color at all in their family.
Not even recessive or dominant.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's weird. So I mean, my mom tells a story of like junior kindergarten where I was like painting the sky purple and the grass brown.
Yeah.
And the teacher's like, to my mom, like, you have to get them checked out. So then I always tell this funny story is that people ask me like, oh, but like, are you using that as like a marketing thing? I'm like, yeah, in junior kindergarten, I knew I was going to be an artist when I was 30. So I set it up. It's been a 30-year plot to like have this marketing deploy. So yeah, no, it's funny.
How did you, I'm sure people probably, or correct me if I'm wrong, probably said to you like, really, like you want to be an artist?
Yeah, it was all part of the narrative. Like all part of growing up. Yeah,
and they probably like shut it down. Like, how did you fight that?
Starving artist.
Yeah, it was all part of that. It was grouped into the same thing where it's unrealistic.
Wow.
It never was it because no one really thought I was going to do it. So never would it get into the specifics of like you're not going to make money, Anthony. You can't see color. It was always like don't do this. Yeah, everyone would generalize it to me because of the historic norms of starving artists and all the other issues that come along with being creative. So never like, listen, my parents are super supportive. They really, really are. Like, follow your heart to a degree. right? But they never said like, if you become an artist, you will not make money. That wasn't their words.
Got it.
It was just like, are you sure? It was like, you have a really stable, great job. Like you work for this. And they were like, try, and everyone around me, rightly so. Like they directed me like, hey, like make sure you're like, do you know what you're doing here? People fight for what you have. So it was like more of that, but it was never like, you're colorblind, you can't be an artist. Because I would have gotten mad at that. And no one wanted to like, it wasn't hostile.
But that's a good thing though, because they had they were supporting you, they were giving you the right advice, just making sure that you knew what you were doing, right? That you had your head on straight. And that you had some sort of plan, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure you appreciated that, and for sure, especially in the moment, and especially looking back to now as well too.
100%. But I think when you constantly prove to yourself and others around you that you're going to execute whatever you say you're going to do, it becomes difficult for them to fight you. Meaning like, I'll tell a very quick story about how I got a scholarship. Like I'm from Toronto. There was no scouts up here. I'm a relatively undersized pitcher. I was a baseball pitcher. I was good, like, but I wasn't the best. Like there wasn't coaches flying up to see me. So I reached out to all 306 Division I schools because I wanted to play Division I, and literally hand-to-hand combated every single one of them. I was like, I want to come to your school, and this is the list of reasons why. I want to come to Southern Iowa and that. Like every single school, I found positive and negatives and sent emails to their coaches and assistant coaches. And it took a really long time. Like of the 306, no one responded. Like 3 or 4 people said, like, take me off your mailing list. But then I just kept going and I kept narrowing it down.
And
like
personal.
And then I got a couple of bounce backs to wrong emails. So that was all the responses. But I just kept going and kept going. And I ended up getting a Division I baseball scholarship where like a lot of my friends that were better than me or people that I played against that were better than me didn't. And it was because I did. And I'm not saying that to be like, oh, I got a scholarship. Like I literally went out and got one.
That's the hard work versus talent aspect.
Exactly. Because there's people that are way more talented than me. So because I already proved through a couple different things, even I had no work experience at all because baseball would run through the summer. So all of my like friends and family that went to like Canadian schools or different schools, they come home for the summer. They'd work an internship. They'd work a job at the bank. They get some hours under their belt. Yeah. I had zero. I worked at Champs in Yorkdale for like 2 months, and G Machine. So when I came, and Mex. I worked at Mex as well, all for like a couple months. They're all like out of business now, besides Champs. But so when I came home, I had zero work experience, and I wanted to work for an investment bank or an investment fund. I'm like, who's this kid? So I had to take a different approach. I had to I ended up coaching kids and building a big platform of coaching. And then I would talk to all the dads because your kid's in baseball and your kid likes me as a coach, but you guys all have jobs. So maybe I can get a job with one of you guys. And that's what I did. And I ended up finding a job at an investment fund through a kid that I coached.
That's so smart.
So I took a back end approach. So all these things in life, I found a way. So that's what I was going to do in art. I was just going to find a way. And I think that because I proved it to myself, and it goes back to having confidence in yourself, I believed I could. And that ended up rolling out to working.
It was inspiring, man.
Yeah, very. It reminds me two themes. When there is no door, make it.
Yep.
You create it and walk through it. And second thing, my mom till this day will say, you should go be a lawyer. You should go be a lawyer. Be a lawyer. And I'm like, I don't want to be a lawyer.
Yeah.
I don't want to. But I understand why she says that.
Yeah, they just want the best for us.
I feel like it's less these days because now they've seen what's been happening the last 10 years. But dude, she'd pull Sarah aside. They talk to him, tell him to go, do this. And I'm like, Sarah, like, why? He loves what he does.
I realize now as a parent, when they are saying these things, they just want to know when they go to bed that they gave the ultimate advice to their kid, people that they love the most in the world.
Yes.
And she's not wrong.
No. Yeah.
She's not wrong,
true.
Right?
They don't want you to struggle.
That's it.
They don't want you to struggle.
They worked hard, or like your grandparents, them, whatever it is. A lot of people, there's a huge line of humans that had to work hard to get us to this point.
Yep.
And whether that point was really high or really low, it doesn't even matter. They just got us to that point. They just made it here. So they're like, you're young and agile and all this stuff. Is like, go do better, right? Like they don't. Why do something with a little bit of risk attached?
Exactly.
And that's all they're trying to say.
And it's like with your son, right? And for my son now, I mean, he's only 2 months at the time of this recording, but I still don't want him to suffer. Like
my son's not being an artist. If he tells me he wants to be an artist, I'll tell him no.
There you go. There you go.
I'm like, he can do whatever he wants. But
the point is,
I know how hard it is.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's easier routes.
And you love him. That's why you say it. Now,
Exactly.
now you might say it differently because of your own challenges coming up, right? I will say it to them differently.
Yeah.
And you'll say it differently, Danny. Same thing. And it's like, I know probably Carson, you know, you're going to tell your daughters the same thing.
Yeah.
But it's like, you just want the best for them. So it's nothing, the parents that, I think it's maybe far and few between, like where there's bad parents that'll say, don't do this just because there's a selfish motivation or something. I think that's just, we see a lot of that in TV and movies and stuff.
Sure.
But for the most part, like once you have your kid, you're going to go through this very soon, but once you have your kid, you then learn about, like you appreciate your parents more from a different perspective.
Of course.
This is how they look at me.
Yep.
Even though I'm 31,
That's right.
they still see me as that little infant that they delivered.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
That's
so
right.
I see my kid like that. So now it makes my relationship with my parents a whole lot better too.
100%.
Yeah, takes it to a different level.
Yep. What I wonder is, because I don't have my kid yet, but in a couple of months I will. Like, I'm just thinking, like, you want it to be easy for them, right? But at the same
balance
time,
is really difficult.
you don't want it to be easy. You know what I mean? Kind of, because if it's too easy for them, they're gonna be spoiled. Let's be real.
But it's a huge conversation.
Yeah, right.
It is, like, because I've seen, we've all seen both sides of the world. Like there was this huge conversation between public and private school, like or like where we vacation or the house we live in, and all these different things is like, are we spoiling him or not, whatever it is. But we all three of us will know bad kids that went to private school and bad kids that went to public.
Exactly.
Yep.
I know deadbeats that went to private school, and I know incredible kids that went to private school. Like, it goes down to the human and it goes down to the parents.
Yeah.
Like I know people that lived in the ultimate of luxury, in mansions, traveled the world their whole life, and they are incredible people in society. Genuine, loving, friendly, and like really down to earth, humble. And then I know people that lived much less than them that are both and all are crazy. So I don't think there's math to it. I don't think there's like if I put my kid in a top private school and he travels the world with me as he does, is he going to end up being like a shitty person in society? I don't believe that, because he's going to be around people that are like showing the world love. Whereas we know scenarios. I'm sure you guys can even just think off the top of your head right now, a couple kids in both buckets that equaled really good people and really bad. So that's the proof that it was like, I as long as we're doing everything with the right intention, and we want the best for our kids, and I don't think you can do and the spoil thing is a big issue. But also like just teaching things like, you know, hard work got this.
Yeah.
And also them seeing us.
Exactly.
There's a really big Grant does it, but who does it really well? I mean, there's a bunch of people that do this really, really well, where it's like you're showing, not telling. If I told my kid, hey, work out every day, just, you know, work hard, but I'm sitting on the couch eating chips and watching TV, you're like, Dad, you don't. Ed Milet says this really, really well.
Yeah.
It's like when a kid looks at his dad and the dad goes, you could be anything you want, honey. And the kid's like, well, why didn't you? And then it's like, you could be in shape and you can be a professional athlete. He's like, well, why didn't you? Right? If my son works out with me a lot, he'll work out. He does 2 push-ups and has fun bouncing around, right? But he's in the gym with me.
Yeah.
Because he sees daddy's doing it. So he's like, if daddy sat on the couch every day, that's what my son doesn't, not that we were against TV or anything. My son doesn't watch a lot of TV because my wife and I don't watch TV. So he's like, why would I do something that my parents aren't doing?
That's true.
But while my mom's on the Peloton and my dad's over here working out or whatever it is, painting, he wants to do it. Kids just want to emulate what their parents are doing.
That's what I was just mentioning on an earlier episode. My wife and I, we just did an episode, and it's like, we're talking to the audience and we're saying, guys, like, your kid is going to edify like what you put out there, like what you show them.
Yeah.
It's not, a lot of people, it's like, oh, now it's all about the kid and we got to react to the kid. It's like, no, you're in charge of the kid. You're responsible for the kid. You need to put those things in place that, you know, will force him to wake up at a certain time, go to bed at a certain time. Feeding is typically when they're hungry, obviously. You feed them early on whenever they're hungry, but you're the one that's creating that schedule. And I always say, like, the kid is along for your ride. It's not, you're not along for their ride. You are, but it's not their show. They're the ones that are just, they don't know. They're dependent on you.
Exactly.
So you got to put those things in place. And a lot of that happens maybe before you have kids too. Have that conversation with your wife, your partner.
And having discipline as a human, like we spoke about early on. It's just like being a disciplined human carries on to everything you do.
It does, definitely. So, quick question for you guys both. Will you guys buy your kids their first car, or are you going to let them go get a job? and then pay for the car. What do you guys think?
I don't know. I didn't get a car. I turned out okay. I have no idea. That's a really good question.
Those are the things that kind of keep me up, especially these days leading up to it, where I'm like,
and I know both. I know people that got cars and didn't, and they're both good people in society. So it's a good question.
Yeah. If you want me to answer it, one thing that I love is that like the way our parents raised us, where we weren't deprived. So our parents came to the country in the mid-'80s. They met here.
Yeah.
And they got into like the convenience store business. That's
cool.
Their credentials didn't transfer over. They were teachers.
Oh.
And so they all we knew like was, going to wholesalers and helping them on the weekends. And then we go to Chuck E. Cheese or something like that. We'd have fun. There was a good balance.
Yep.
So I loved most of the ways my parents raised me. As being the oldest, they were a lot harder.
Yeah, for sure.
You can be real, right? You're here, so sing behind your back.
Well, are you guys brothers?
We're brothers.
I did not know you're brothers. That is so funny. Sorry.
That's a first. That's a first.
I did not know. I'm sorry. Cool.
No, it's okay. But
I could see now, but cool. Yeah. Cool.
So there was certain things like my dad would say, graduate university, and back home, university was important.
Yeah.
It gave you
Where's home?
In Iraq.
Okay.
So you were like respected with your education.
Yeah.
It actually got you a proper job and stuff.
Yeah.
And so they would say, go to university, but I hated school. I hated school since day one. He hated school. I don't know why we just hated school all the time. But we were good at it. Like we could do it, no problem, but we hated it. And the one thing I wouldn't do is like he'd said, when you graduate university, I'll get you a Porsche. But my parents don't have money.
Yeah.
So I graduate university. Instead of him saying, I just wanted you to become this person.
Yeah.
You can now go get your own Porsche.
Yeah.
He just said, I never said that to you. And I'm like, that part is like a letdown.
Yeah.
That was a letdown, but thankfully I don't need him to get the Porsche.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, I understand why he was trying to incentivize me to go through with it. Right.
Yeah.
So I would do things a little differently that way. But what I wanted to jump in and say was the one thing about our kids that they're going to see that we didn't see our parents go through is we're putting out content.
Mm-hmm.
They could go back and watch these days.
That's true.
But when they're 16 and 17, they're going to be able to see what, daddy was doing in his.
Daddy tried. Daddy was working.
Tried.
100%.
Hustling. So
100%.
We're creating content. That's one of the main reasons why I like creating content.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
So I don't know. We're going to show them that hard work, that progression. But then I've always told Sarah, I go, his first job is McDonald's. She's like, my kid's not working at McDonald's. I'm like, his first job is McDonald's.
I think that's a great idea, honestly.
Yeah.
Get down and dirty. And
100%. One of my friends owns Bruno's Fine Foods and the grocery store. And I was like, well, as soon as AJ's, my son's name is AJ, relatively allowed to work, he is stocking shelves. That's 100%. Yeah. Our other friends works in the food terminal and it's coming. I'm like, he'll help load up bananas. Don't tell me twice. 100%.
Yeah.
100%. I think I believe that.
So important.
I believe it. Of course.
I was flipping I ended up working at Chuck E. Cheese as my first job.
Nice.
I was in the kitchen of who the heck wants to work at Chuck E. Cheese in the kitchen?
Yeah.
As a kid, you love going there for the games and stuff.
Yeah.
You kind of want to be out there.
Yeah.
With the striped shirt, right? The referee shirt. And I was in the kitchen. I was like, whatever. But it taught me valuable lessons.
Yes.
And then I went to, I don't know if you remember a place called Johnny Rockets.
Yeah, of course.
Old fashioned.
Yeah. They still have them in. I went to one in Vegas a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, they have them in the States.
Yeah.
So I was flipping burgers. He started working there. And then I was waiting tables.
Nice.
And then I was working at Lucky Strikes, the bowling alley, and all that stuff in Vaughan Mills.
Yeah.
Until I got licensed. And then same day, done, no 2 weeks notice.
Yeah.
I was like, I've been a good employee.
Yeah.
I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
And so, but those serving tables, talking to people taught me so many valuable skills.
That's for sure.
Right. So I want my kids to experience that.
Yep.
So they're going to have to, and then they can choose what they want to do.
Yeah.
But learn those basics, because if you don't learn them at those jobs, you're going to learn them somewhere else and you're going to make those mistakes and it might cost you your job.
Totally agree.
100%. I think, I've learned so many things in my first job. And I remember at that time, there was a point where the manager, I was a busboy, first job.
Yeah.
And he told me, he's like, clean these sewers. It was like the sewer we had in the back. And it was disgusting.
I hated those.
And I was like to him, I'm like, you don't want me to like clean it. You're just joking, right? He's no, get down and clean it.
Yeah.
And I was
with a butter knife.
Yeah. And I used to do it. And he's like, I'm like, for real? And I remember I was like, how old was I? Like 16 at that point or 17? I'm like, for real? He's like, yeah, get down and clean it. And it was disgusting. It was at that point where I was like, you know what? Like, I'm going to do this job because I have to.
Yeah.
But I'm not doing this forever. Like, I want more for myself.
For sure.
So that was that realization.
It's good to go through those things. Yeah.
100%. Because that was the realization of like, wow, there's people that do this and they're much older and they stay in this job. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And nothing against those people.
No,
but
of course not. You just
I always encourage people to just strive for more.
Yep.
Right? Like, I was getting some food the other day, and I was telling this to Matthew, and the girl was like maybe 16, 17. She did a really good job. It was at Filthy Phillies, and she did a really good job like making the food.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I said to her, I'm like, wow, you did an amazing job. I have to say, great job on how you prepared the food. Yeah. I'm like, I saw you actually like put in so much effort into making it. Thank you.
Yeah.
And she was blown away. She's like, oh, thank you so much, but like it's normal. I'm like, if you do that in your work here, you're going to do that in every area of your life.
Totally.
You're going to live a very successful life. So keep it up. And she was so encouraged. And I'm like, wow, like it really does, you do get a lot back from working, especially at that young age.
Yeah. And did you guys play team sports growing up at all?
I played baseball.
Okay, amazing. Yeah. So amazing. Team sports to me were absolutely everything as well. Because before you can get into the job market, you're playing with teams, having to cooperate with people, having to be accountable to others, having to lose together. Yeah. That's a big thing as well. Like learning how to lose within a team, lose with yourself, and everything else. So like team sports, I owe a lot to.
100%.
I had an issue because our team in grade 10, we went 19-0. I didn't know what losing was.
Too good.
I didn't know what losing was.
That's funny. No, it's true.
Another house league. Yeah,
but on that point though, like you see right now, I see it a lot, and they like whenever like especially for soccer, they say there's no winners or there's no losers, and they just kind of give the participation ribbons everywhere. And I saw a video the other day. I don't know who it was. It was a coach for like a little league team.
I sent it to you.
Did you send it?
Yeah.
And he was just like, I don't care what your dad says.
Yeah. That guy's good. He's on that. Yeah.
He's right. And he was telling the truth. Though.
He's either a winner or a loser. And if your dad says this, they're losers.
Yeah. But I feel like that's lost in society these days because everyone wants to like shelter kids and say to them, oh no, you're gonna be fine. It's okay. The world loves you, but you're really setting them up for failure.
100%.
Let's be real.
The world's not not that way.
The world's not a bad thing. It's also not necessarily a good thing.
Yeah.
It just is.
Yep.
Right. So like you just go and you have experiences and interactions with people. Yeah. And a lot of people don't, they want to shelter the kids, I get it, protect them, but I guess reaches that point where it's to their own detriment of not letting them experience things, right?
100%.
It's crazy.
I want to get back to the art real quick. So have you taken, the answer is probably yes, but the better question, who have you taken inspiration from? Have you ever seen a creative work like the Mona Lisa and said, wow, like it's been breathtaking? Or have you ever looked at the Sistine Chapel and said, wow?
Yeah. So many artists. Like, I'm truly a student of art, and I love everything about art, historic to modern to contemporary to abstract to everything. So I think that my style has evolved through, and I've tried, going back to trying a lot of things, but I've tried so many styles. When you're learning, when you're first starting, you want to emulate these people that you look up to. So you do things like them, and that's how you eventually mold into your own thing. But I mean, there's just so many. The list is endless of who. Like, I mean, everyone from my favorite artist is an artist who's very, very big in the art world, but like socially not as big. His name is Julian Schnabel. He did these paintings with these plates, these broken plates. And I remember I went to this art show at the AGO, the Art Gallery of Ontario. For anyone, is with my uncle to see these paintings in person. These are multi-million-dollar paintings. They're made with broken plates, and he paints these faces on the plates. And I remember standing in front of them. It was the first time I was probably 8 or 9 years old, and I was like, I'm going to become an artist because of these paintings.
Wow.
So it still to this day, really moves me. And so from there, a lot of other artists in like through those 80s and 90s era, like from the Warhols to the Basquiat's to the Jeff Koons to the Damien Hirst, like there's a big list, the Murakamis, of people that I've looked up to on a business standpoint, on an artwork standpoint. I mean, like, I really like the way that Koons and Hirst have done their business. I really like the way that Schnabel and Basquiat execute the art. I really love the way that Warhol marketed. Like, and I've tried to turn myself into versions or taking things. There's a great book by Austin Kleon called Steal Like an Artist. And the whole concept is that nothing we do is original. Literally everything can be traced back to 100 years ago, 600 years ago, 20 years ago, 3 years ago, where it's like everything is a derivative of something else. So knowing that and embracing that, I can be like, okay, I love the way that Warhol made his prints or had changed the color on them. So let me utilize that because that was copied from someone else.
Yeah.
And the list goes on. So to the question is like, yeah, so many people inspire me, and I'm continuously inspired every day.
Success leaves clues, man.
Yes.
Success leaves clues. And why try to, just forge your own path, of course, but like why try to go along that path without help from others? People have written books about it. People have done videos and seminars, and as you said, you could just look and shoot. Like I look at Grant Cardone, I've never met him, I've never spoken to him, but I take, bits and pieces from what he does that I like, that I can incorporate into my business.
Of course.
Or Brad Lee, or even Ryan Pineda. I've been really on his stuff recently.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
Yeah, and so that's so important for any entrepreneur in any field of what they're doing.
Of course, yeah, it's been done. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We can change it into our own wheel, but we don't have to reinvent it.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Have you been to the Sistine Chapel?
I have. Yeah, it was 8 years ago. I was like 16 or 17, so I wasn't in the same mental state that I would be now to look at it. But I mean, it's stunning.
I've always wanted to go visit. I've never been.
Yeah.
But they say there's a sense of, among other things, like a sense of smell. You really start to smell the art, the paint. Is that?
Yeah, I kind of, because when people are going into it, you're going into it like with a whole different mindset of like of amazement. You're looking at it like, what is going on here? Yeah. How is this even done? And it's really funny to say how it was done. It was done with hundreds of artists, and a lot of people don't know this. Michelangelo will get all the credit, right, for doing this. Yeah, it was like a total of 150 different artists worked on it, because even to this day, a lot of artists have helpers and artists do stuff with them. They direct how it's supposed to be done. One artist may get all the credits. Someone very famous for this is Jeff Koons. He was on 60 Minutes. Just, the big balloon dog? Probably seen it before. It looks like a sculpture of a balloon dog. That's what he's famous for. But he does all these sculptures. He doesn't, in paintings, he doesn't hand touch anything. He is one of the most famous artists in the world, most valuable artists collected, but doesn't touch anything.
Okay.
The paintings, the sculptures, because his concept is that I am the artist. Does the architect hammer every nail into the building, the condo building?
No, they don't.
No. So he is the architect of the artwork. And that's what Michelangelo's, Da Vinci, and all these different artists through history were. They had so many people working under them. That's why a lot of things, Warhol, I mentioned Warhol. Warhol had hundreds of people that were just making his screen prints for him. He didn't hand pull every single screen print. It wasn't scalable. It would have taken hundreds of years to do the size of the Sistine Chapel with one singular human painting every single aspect.
On his back.
Yeah. So, there was definitely a large portion that he did, and he directed. It was definitely his vision.
Sure.
And when I understood that, it made me look at things differently, because it's still in awe. It's the same way that we today don't understand the concept of the pyramids in Egypt. And there's like, how was this done? Well, it was done with millions of people.
Yeah.
Like millions of people moved these
Not
stones.
aliens.
It could have been.
Not aliens.
I'm still on the brand. I've heard some really, but it was done with millions of people.
Beacons of energy.
Yeah. I love those Rogan podcasts. Talking about that stuff. I've gone down some funny rabbit holes with that stuff. I love that stuff.
I think we all have.
Yeah, it's just, as kids, that was fun. If you're fascinated with stuff like that as kids, you always want to know. But the slaves built
unfortunately, yes.
Let's be real.
Yeah. Billions of them.
Yeah. But you were saying like there's always that whole idea of like, if you want to scale, you want to do something great.
You have a team. Yeah, you have to. That goes to everything in business.
Yeah.
And I'm just learning that. Like I paint every single thing of mine, but like I'm not also making thousands of paintings a year where Koons is. Like, how would I physically do that? I can't. Right? So you would need people to maybe make the base layers, make the top layers, do the sketching. Like there's a concept that like I do where I thought of like, okay, in 10 years, I do like, so let's say one of my heart paintings. Once I draw the hearts on there, like in my style, why am I filling them in as well? Like I'm just filling them in white. It's literally paint and play, paint by numbers. So I can see in the very far future being like, I can have an assistant paint the hearts, and just for argument's sake, I haven't done that yet and haven't thought about it, but that's how it can slowly evolve to becoming like a business.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
There's always that whole, the question about scaling, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, even in here, we can choose to have 10,000 agents or 1,000 agents or whatever, but it's not the pond that I want to be in.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be in the pond of, we're an efficient business. We've got a good team.
Yeah.
The culture is great. We're serving our clients well.
Yes.
And really just...
You're on top of everything.
Yeah, we're on top of it. And you know what? We're enjoying our life at the same time.
Yes.
I was speaking with a guy yesterday, and he's looking to make a move, and it would be somebody I want to bring on the team. And he's like, look, if I make this move, like, I really want flexibility. I want to go home at 3. I want to go be with my kids. I want to go do this. I want to go do that. I'm like, well, you see me at the beach all the time in the summer. I go, you see us traveling. We're doing pods. We're doing stuff, but we're still getting our business done. Our clients are being served. I'm like that. That's the culture in here.
Yeah.
And I don't think we want to change that. I think we just want to expand on it.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of have to decide like which pond do you want to be in.
Yes.
And if you're in that pond, be the best fish in that pond. Do it to the best of your abilities.
Yep.
That's kind of how I look at it.
Totally agree.
Yesterday. So.
Totally agree.
For sure, man. It's interesting because there's a lot of different ways to go about it, but you won't know what you like unless you try different avenues, like you're saying. Just try things, right? And especially when it comes to business, because there's people that, you know, work 8 to 8, you know, and they're happy with it. They're very, very happy.
Yeah, that's people, fine. It's amazing.
Yeah, they burn the midnight oil, you know, and they're going and they're okay. They love it, right? And then there's other people, you know, they want to be done at 5 or whatever the case is, which is also okay. It's teach their own, right?
Genuinely needs to make you happy.
Yeah.
And I believe that's the undertone of everything. If it makes you happy, then keep going.
Yeah.
Definitely.
The rest of it will follow.
Yep.
The rest of it follow. You grow, you expand, you get more clientele. All that will come if you're doing something you love. That's literally what you did.
100%.
For real.
And the hearts came about that. So I love it so much. We got to get some merch from you soon.
Yeah. I don't have much. I just did I'm getting, I was actually going to wear it on the pod, but I have a golf tournament tomorrow. I got golf polos made with like hearts I'm super excited for. So I don't do much stuff like that because it just takes up mental space. And like I definitely don't do it for money because I usually just sell them for what I make it for. It's just more of like a fun thing. Usually I want shorts for the summer, so I make them and then I'll make an extra 50 and I'll like sell them. But yes, next time I have some stuff, I got you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Appreciate it.
And I actually have a couple of pieces that I want to run by you.
Yeah.
Some ideas.
Yeah.
Off air for sure.
Yeah, of course.
And but before we let you go, leave our audience with the last thoughts and also tell them how they can connect with you.
Yeah. I really want everyone. So there's the concept of like following your heart and dreams can come true. But I want people to understand that like when we're dreaming, we need to wake up and execute because dreams don't come true unless we literally wake up and go do those things that we're dreaming about. So too many of us are like, oh, this sounds great. Yeah, I would love to do that. And then we never execute. And then a year goes by, then years and a life goes by. So the number one thing I want to say is that if you have a spark of a dream, if something inspires you, go execute it at its fullest ability and find time. It could be 30 minutes. It could be 15 minutes a day, whatever it is, find and carve out a small section here. Wake up 30 minutes earlier, go to bed 30 minutes later. I don't care what the answer is. Find the time to do something that you think you like. You may not love it yet. It may not be a business, it may not make you money, but if you like something enough to try it, do it. And that's like the number one thing that I want to leave people with. And
take action. Take action.
Massive action.
Execute on your dreams. That's it. Yeah. And then that's it. So.
And you want them to connect with you Instagram?
Yeah, Instagram's easy. Yeah. Like I'm everywhere as Ricciardi Paints. Just tell the boys to pop up how you spell my last name. But yeah.
I'll put the link in the description.
Yeah, beautiful. Sure. Ricciardi Paints everywhere. Just Anthony Ricciardi on Google and all that fun stuff.
Awesome, man.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you guys so much. This is amazing. Super grateful. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
Awesome. And guys, until next time, we're out.
We're out.
See ya.